Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and someone who shouldn't have disposable income. This is not a test. This is a random review.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1331 of our daily content grind. So yesterday's experiment of using my phone for my review camera seemed to work pretty well. Still need a microphone for it because I'm using external recording right now. But hey, we do what we must because we can. So the point is, I am still tweaking this a little bit, so if the colors get weird or the focus goes out once in a while, I apologize. I'm trying my best to do the new setup. However, we talked about one aerial bot yesterday, so now we have to talk about the other aerial bot that is now available. Let's take a look at Air Raid. So, out of all of the aerial bots, here is the one jet that breaks the color scheme. Everyone decided on this nice white and red palette, very heroic, very Autobot looking despite being jets, and then Air Raid shows up and everyone goes, dude, we talked about this. Like, we had a discussion. This was supposed to be, we're supposed to be in on this together. What are you doing, man? Like, I don't know. I like black. So, he's the oddball out in vehicle mode. Don't worry, in robot mode, we're going to make up for that. But it is a nice looking fighter jet, isn't it? You know, as opposed to the weird Harrier-esque thing that Slingshot was, Air Raid is very much what you think of when you think of a fighter jet. Pitch black, with the exception of the silver for the canopy and the white edges along the wings, which does look very, very nice. It makes his wings look like blades, just flying through the air. You do have a little bit of gray there on the back of the tail fins, just to give that a little bit of a pop, just to separate out the fins a little bit. Beyond that, though, not a whole lot of coloring and detail going on here. There's plenty of sculpting, don't get me wrong. You do have quite a bit of sculpting in there, especially across the wings and the back, to try and get this to look more like a military vehicle that has been riveted together, but not a whole lot going on, really. Now, toward the back, you do get thrusters molded in, which is a cool little detail that they technically kind of skip sometimes, so always nice when they actually remember to include it. Oh yeah, the jet has to fly with something. Right, we kind of forgot about that. Okay, we'll include them this time. We'll include them this time. How about that? But no, it's not bad. Also, he does have 5mm ports underneath the wings, just like Slingshot did. So we can go ahead and remove his robot mode guns, which in this case does just look like a pair of hand cannons hanging off his wings. So, you know, it's not the most natural looking weapon for a fighter jet. Just to give you a cleaner look at him. And this is about the last clean look you're going to get, because now I have to bring you to the underside where... So yeah, you know how Slingshot kind of made the body shape work with all of the robot junk that had to hang out underneath him? Along with the color scheme memo, yeah, Air Raid didn't get the memo about tucking up all your robot bits. So yeah, he's just kind of got his feet hanging down here. He's just kind of a block. We look on the underside, he just kind of looks like a robot underneath a jet, which is kind of unfortunate. Now, he does have the landing gear here, rather than, you know, in a more natural position up front that you would expect. But as long as it makes sure that the toy doesn't, you know, fall down forward, right? The feet on the toy are so freaking big, you do not need the landing gear. He just stands up in vehicle mode. Yeah, that's some big clown shoes he's rocking down there. But at the very least, you know, if you've got him in jet mode on your desk, at least you know he's stable, I guess. But yeah, the big detraction here is just the fact that, yeah, he does not do anything nearly as interesting as his wave mate. But I guess it means transforming him is going to be nice and simple. So, we can start in on that. So let me rotate these around, because these will get in the way of the feet's clearance in robot mode if you don't. Now, if you want them completely gone, if these are a little bit more distracting, especially in robot mode than you'd like, they are mounted on 5mm pegs, so you can pop them off, replace them with weapons, or, you know, just clear them out of the way generally, you know, if you don't want them to mess up the vehicle modes look. I should state that, or I guess the robot modes look rather. I should state, once you have your combiner already, once you get your silver bolt, everything here does tab up like that in order to create the leg for Superion. Remember, you're just going to press him into the back side of Superion's skeleton, meaning, yeah, that's just going to stick out the back just like that. It's not the most thrilling aspect of the character, but I need to point it out because, as you're going to notice as we go through this toy, he's kind of coming up on the low end of things a little bit here. Okay, so as you saw, we can fold all this up. This has a hinge, which I feel like is completely unnecessary unless you really need to clear it out of the way during the combination for Superion. You might have to. That's probably for the knee bend now that I really give it a thought. But here, it just seems kind of, there. Okay, let me get this guy transformed. Now, the nice thing is, the legs actually have a little bit of an interesting transformation. So I'm going to flip out those big panels, and then I'm going to pop the feet like so. And then all of this in this rear section of the jet, all of that gets to double hinge out and down like this. And we're going to collapse all of this together in order to form a pair of nice solid legs. I was trying to do it all in one piece, which is possible, but if you want a little slightly easier time, go ahead and separate the parts out. Yeah, it's at least a fun leg transformation. You get a little bit of inside-out engineering to it. Makes up for the rest of it, because guess what else we're going to do with this robot transformation? I'm going to flip out an arm, and that's all I really need to do. Unpeg the arm, flip it out the fist. Done. Rotate the head. Done. Robot. Done. Yeah, so unfortunately, while the leg transformation is interesting, the rest of it is unfortunately not. He's very bog standard. He is very simple. The transformation element on this toy is not going to be exciting for most collectors out there, which is a shame because I actually liked some of the things that Slingshot was doing. I feel like between the upper body of Slingshot and the lower body of Air Raid here, you have what could be potentially a very nice Transformer, just very nice jet Transformer toy, all on his own. But unfortunately, you don't. So he just kind of, I don't know, meanders in mediocrity. But at this point, I can just point out that, yeah, just like any of the other aerial bots, this is pretty much going to be the whole thing for all four of them. At least all four of the deluxes. You got the legs with the wings hanging off, with like the tail fins and all that hanging off. The wings at least being on the back is at least a more traditional mounting point. I like those better than wings, like sticking off the legs as huge gigantic panels. But he does very much hit that aerial bot thing of, I'm just a man wearing a jet on my back. But, hey, animation accurate, so that's the way it's gotta be. We can bring him in close if you want to see what his head looks like. I assume you want to see what his head looks like. It's not a bad head sculpt. I'm glad they went with a more rounded aesthetic to it. Because, if it's toy-based, it's going to be blocky. Thankfully, cartoon-based, you get a little bit of definition there. He's got the dome head, too. He is also a baldy, but he has a nice silver paint job to make it look like a actual piece of the helmet, rather than just a hairline that receded faster than, like the tides. So the face, gray paint, so that stands out pretty well. Nice ice blue eyes, so that works. And then if we take a look, he's got detail, don't get me wrong. You can see the layers of his armor, you can see detailing you could take as like different forms of intakes across the body. If we get into the legs, we get two little points of red paint on the front of the legs, just to make sure that white is broken up a tiny little bit, but they are mostly just white legs. You get a little bit of paint on the pelvis too, which for some reason is a down arrow. Don't look into that. Don't read into it. Autobot symbol on the chest, at least. The one thing about his counterpart, who I'll bring in just so you can see both of them together as comparison. At least Air Raid shows his Autobot side very prominently in robot mode. Where is your badge, Slingshot? Where is yours? What, on the wings? They're upside down and hidden in robot mode. You traitor! I knew you're always you're always the rebellious one, weren't you? You were always the rebellious one. Be gone. Be gone. Here's a good Autobot boy. Here's a good loyal soldier. So, articulation rundown, because honestly there's not a whole lot left we can talk about toy-wise. So, head is ball jointed, which means you do get some up and down as well as full 360 degrees of motion. You have proper universal shoulders. Love to see that. There's your hollowing. Very little on the leg, but in the arm, yeah, you can see the hollowing, which doesn't bother me, but I have to point it out because it's a deal breaker to some people out there. 360 degrees on the bicep rotation, 90 degree on the elbow bend, nothing at the wrist. Waist joint works nice and stays clear of the backpack, so you got full range of motion there. Universal hips, thigh swivel 360 degrees, knee bend 90 degrees, and then you have the ankle tilt as well. Yeah, and you can even have like a little bit of forward tilt as well if you really need that for a pose. So, articulation isn't lacking in the least. He's got every point of articulation I really like. None of his kibble is getting in the way of it, except for maybe the wings getting in the way of the arms, but thankfully they hinge back. So you can just keep him like that, and that also cleans up his silhouette if you prefer that as well. So, yeah, that gives you all the range the arms are going to need. And then there are the weapons. So, yeah, like I said, his weapons kind of come across as just a pair of hand cannons. The design's okay. They're not really thrilling me as far as weaponry goes. If anything, it looks like he's holding like a couple like sawed-off shotguns at the best. But it's not bad. It's not terrible. Definitely seen worse accessories on a Transformer. But again, like a lot of this character, a lot of this toy on his own, he's just not the most thrilling, And I know there's Air Raid fans out there. I'm sorry. Your boy is a little bit lacking. Like robot mode colors, like I always feel like he's the one that's like, yeah, you're just kind of an aerial bot, aren't you? You're just straight up white and red boy. But no, that is going to be your lot. Like, I wish I had more to talk about, but that's pretty much the gambit of the figure. Articulation-wise, he's definitely better than Slingshot is, but transformation-wise, he doesn't have any weird tricks the way Slingshot does. Yeah, like I said, I just find it a little bit dull. And as a toy in general, he is unfortunately just a little bit dull. I wish I could have gotten a little bit of a more interesting experience out of him. He's going to be one that you buy specifically for combining into Superion, or if you are the type who just likes a smallish jet transformer without having to pay Voyager or higher prices like you would for a Seeker, or you just don't like a complex transformation. You might like just like the simple little robot underneath the vehicle. Entirely up to your preference. For me personally, I'd like a little bit more meat on the bones. This feels like a very thin toy outing. But then again, it's just for the set of characters, right? I'm sorry, Slingshot, you can come back for this. My fear is that the other leg bot is going to feel the same way, but we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. But until then, that is Air Raid. Our aerial bots for now have been covered. Stay tuned for whenever the other three actually manage to make it to stores. So, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.